Right now, it's Tyler McCaughn. He's a Mississippi State Senator, represents a District 31, which includes Lauderdale, Newton, and Scott County, serves as the chair of the Senate Forestry Committee, vice chair of Senate Agricultural Committee. Mr. Chairman, good to have you on today, sir. Thanks for joining us.
How you doing, Gerard?
Doing fantastic. So let's start off by talking about something the legislature has been addressing this session, and that's legislation which would essentially prohibit these various DEI practices in public education in Mississippi. Talk to us about that. You've been heavily involved.
I have been heavily involved. I get to work with Senator Boyd on this issue, and it kind of lies in with, they moved me into Judd A as vice chair, so I guess I kind of inherited some of these tough issues now. But this is a big deal for Senator Boyd. Representative Hood on the other side has worked real hard on this, and I think we're well on our way to getting something accomplished today. The version that came from the House over the Senate now had a little tweaking done, and I think we're well on our way to getting something that's going to be a good product for the state of Mississippi here. Senator Boyd's worked very hard on that, and she's allowed me to be a part of that as well.
She sure has, and we appreciate the efforts there. This is something I believe has no place in public education, and the president, as you know, wasted no time with a series of executive orders day one that essentially would strip all these DEI practices out of the spectrum of government, which I think was a good move. Of course, you recall the Biden administration injected many of those policies. In fact, it seemed to underscore every policy decision they made.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. I think, this has been substantially different in that. At the end of the day, our bills are not really aimed at, supporting, per se, the federal executive orders. It's more about giving the guidance for institutions in place. And, It's real hard to say do or don't do this when you don't define it. So we've tried our best to define that in this bill so that they know what they can and can't do in order to comply with law and state law, hopefully, before we're done with this.
Yeah, I read it, and I thought you guys did a great job of defining exactly what is DEI, what constitutes DEI, everything from preferential treatment to enrollment or discussion and promotion of it in the classroom, the ability to organize and assemble, and no preferential treatment there, but hiring of staff. I thought it was really well done. I applaud you for that. Here's a question I have, Senator. Is that, as I recall, originally the Senate bill would only apply this legislation to higher ed, our community colleges and our four-year colleges. Have we added K through 12 into this as well now?
We have. Originally, the House version had K through 12. Since the time of the House passage, of course, an executive order hit from the president on some of the issues on K through 12. And we were able to pull that into this piece of legislation to incorporate our public schools, our charter schools. And that's something I want everybody to be sure to know, that we're going across the board. And then, of course, our institutions of higher learning, community colleges, and what have you.
Yeah. Let's talk about forestry and agriculture, something I know you work on a lot, been involved with in your time in the legislature. What's cooking there?
Oh man, it's a rough time for a farmer right now. Going into planting season, not knowing if your bank's even going to give you the crop loan for the year, based upon the eventual output, for some of these crops. We're looking at, the input costs are so high right now. It's hard for a farmer to say, hey, let me borrow the money so I can plant these crops. But I don't know that we're going to get all of our money back. So I'll figure it out some other way. I think we're in a rough situation right now with our farmers, and I hate to tell you, the family farms feed the world, and the grocery store doesn't. Too often we hear from some of the some of the other areas of the nation that say, well, we can just go to the grocery store and get our groceries. Well, who in the decade paid the cost of the family farm and grew it for you? Well, it's a farmer.
Yeah. Well, the lieutenant governor was on a couple of weeks ago, and honestly, it was a top priority at the time. And I've run into your colleague, Senator Neil Whaley, in the Capitol a couple of times, and who works in that committee, and that is a concern. Mike McCormick, Mississippi Farm Bureau Federation. So where do we stand on that, Senator McCaughn? Are these guys going to be able to get the capital they need to plant their crops or not?
I don't. I've talked to some of mine in my area. I represent several row croppers over here in the Newton County area, and they seem to have all been able to secure theirs.
Okay.
We've got to do what we can to focus on getting them to where they actually can make a living off of that product and not have to worry about some additional support from the government, to be honest with you. That's my opinion on it, and I think we're well on our way to doing that. It's just going to take a number of years to get there.
Okay. Well, I know the Lieutenant Governor and, again, Mr. McCormick, they were extremely concerned about where this was going and weren't quite sure at that time if Mississippi's farmers were going to be able to put their crops in the ground. I mean, that would be devastating to our economy, as well as, of course, as you indicate, many of these family farming operations.
That's right. I mean, I'm very fortunate. My dad and I have a cow-calf operation. So that's one of the fun jobs we have left out there with also being an attorney and then in the Senate. It's hard. It's hard to do everything and know that there's potential that farm may not be there for my kid, because At what point do you have to make the decision that it's not financially feasible?
Yeah. What about the tariffs that the Trump administration has imposed? How's that working out for our farmers?
I tell you, I was listening to the two of y'all go back and forth a few minutes ago about some of the financial things going on, the feds, and what's going to happen with the continuing resolution and tariffs. And I hope that at some point we're able to regulate that and minimize the eventual effects. But I'm afraid we're going to have to take a little bit of a hit for a while until we can able to see what the eventual effect's going to be. And in my hope and my anticipation is the administration got a good plan on how it's going to eventually rise. I heard this week that one of the countries over there was bumping up 50% on the alcohol products coming from the United States, and then we were going to reciprocate with 200% on wine. At some point you've got to back up and say, right, so what have we accomplished, and where do we need to go from here? Because the worst thing that happens is you continue to beat up these farmers, you continue to get these manufacturers that are here, and in worse situations than they're already in.
Senator, are you hearing from Mississippi's farmers expressing concerns about how this will affect them?
I think everybody's concerned right now. I do. I've heard some of my folks are, have always been supportive of the Trump administration. They're just very concerned. Are they going to be able to last through this round of tariffs and what's going to financially happen with this? I think in the long run, they trust that the process is going to handle itself. And traditionally, the United States of America has always supported its food supply. And I think that you'll see that eventually come out. And that includes our farmers that are out there.
Well, as you recall, in the first Trump administration, when tariffs were imposed on China, and that had a significant impact on America's farmers, including Mississippi's farmers, right, who export a good bit of their yield to China. They are an importer. And as I recall, the Trump administration shelled out $28 billion in subsidies to try to offset the losses there. Let's hope that that's not necessary this go-round.
I hope not. I hope we're not in a swap situation, because I really hate to see that happen and us have to, come out with those subsidies again to that level when we're doing such a good job of cutting government and cutting fat in certain areas. So I hope we don't have to go that route. Yeah.
Tax reform, that's been a very high-profile issue. As you well know, we've got two different measures, competing measures, one from the House, one from the Senate. And as you well know, leadership is behind the scenes trying to hammer out a deal. It doesn't feel like we're going to get one. What do you think?
I don't know. I hear every day, the rumor mill, just like you do, that maybe we're on our way, maybe we're not. I will say this. I think the discussions are there for the first time across the board. And I think that's a big change from previous years. My real concern right now is where are we at financially in the state? You start looking at the revenues, and you have to be careful and be very mindful of the future. I mean, like I said, this seat is only mine for 2 more years. After that, whoever comes in here may or may not. I'm not saying I'm not running again or anything of that nature, but the people choose who sits in the seat, and I don't want that person to inherit a mess. So I'm very thankful that we're being mindful and not just in. I think we're well on our way to figuring something out. Whether it happens this year or not, I don't know. But with the grocery taxes in there, the gas tax being just, these are discussions that haven't happened for a long time on both sides.
Senator Tyler McCaughn has been our guest on Middays. Appreciate it, Senator. Thanks for coming on. Talk soon, man.
Thank you, sir. Good seeing you, Rod.
You bet. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth studio.